Alright, I'm just gonna come out and say it right away. If you're in the market for a nice TKL that types well and sounds amazing, but don't want to spend $300 and up, then this is the keyboard for you. Introducing the Freebird TKL by Keebsforall. If you recall, Keebsforall is a fairly newish keyboard-related vendor from Los Angeles, and they recently dropped their own in-house keyboard called the Freebird 60. The Freebird 60 was a tray-mounted 60% that had a very similar concept to the ever-popular Tofu series from KBD fans. The exception was that the Freebird 60 had a much nicer finish and came with premium components like Durock stabs. But at the end of the day, the Freebird 60 was still a simple tray-mounted design and carried with it some of the limitations. But now, Keebsforall decided to go a bit deeper with their next rendition of the Freebird series. For the TKL, they didn't just recreate another gasket-mounted design like everyone else, rather took a more unique approach. It's not the first of its kind, but it's definitely more interesting, the Gummy O-ring mount. If you also recall, the style of mounting was more popularized with the recent Bakeneko 60. Designed by Kkatano, it delivered a tremendous typing experience with comfortable feel and phenomenal sound characteristics. Take a quick listen here. So, with everyone's expectations being set so high by the Bakeneko, if the Freebird TKL was to share the same Gummy O-ring mount, it had to deliver, and boy, did it. As you have heard in the final version typing test earlier, it definitely stands toe-to-toe with the Bakeneko, so let's jump right into this board. Along with the board, you can also opt for this nice carrying case specifically designed for the Freebird TKL. It's blue and overall very well constructed. When you open it up, you can see all the necessary components to build this board. First up is the case. This is the E-Black version, the same electrophoresis coating that the original Freebird 60 had. Then you get into the build parts. First, you get the supplied silicone dampener sheet. My sample came with also an FR4 plate, others are also available. The hot swap PCB, also a solder version is available. Then finally the O-ring and the hardware. Getting a closer look at the case, you can see the nice little duck or goose logo in the left inner corner. It also has a nice KFA logo milled into the right corner as well. As mentioned before, the Freebird series is not painted nor anodized, rather it goes through an electrophoresis process. The resulting finish is very smooth and very premium, typically found in boards that are almost double in price. So speaking of price, how much is this board? It's exactly $225. This is also including all the components like the Durock V2 stabs and a dampening mat that is included. So if you bought those separately, this would actually be a sub $200 kit, and that is very aggressive. Overall, the case is very minimal with barely any logos or branding on the outside, with the exception of the small Freebird logo on the back. One thing I would have liked to see is a seamless design, but for this price, this is excusable. Plus, it reminds me of the famous K-Mac that I revamped about a year ago. Lastly, take a look at the USB opening in this case. It has a huge opening so that USB port on the PCB has enough room to flex up and down. This is a F13 key TKL, which means that there is another switch spot at F13 for you to program your favorite function too. I put the window key up here because this is actually a win keyless Sangan layout, so I needed the window key for lock and whatnot. Unfortunately, this is a prototype review sample, so mine came with a scratch in the lower case that you can see right here. Overall, I don't mind this clean and minimal execution that I see on the Freebird TKL. Let's move on to the PCB. This probably has to be one of the most minimal PCBs I've seen in a while, just finished in matte black with pretty much nothing else on it. Flip the board over, you'll notice the familiar KO hot swap sockets, and it's devoid of any RGB or lights or whatsoever. One thing to note, this PCB was designed to be able to take a host of different layouts including ISO. Because of that, you'll see both north and south facing options on a few different switches to accommodate that flexibility, something that is unique to the Freebird line. Now, let's take a look at the supplied FR4 plate. Overall, it's a glossy black finish and nothing extraordinary. As mentioned before, it has cutouts to host both ANSI and ISO layouts, which brings a lot of flexibility to this board. One unique aspect of this board is that it has these little tabs at the edges reminiscent of a top mount plate. Well, because it is. The Freebird TKL not only can take the Gummy O-ring mounting, but it can also be mounted to the top case and become a true top mount as well. Talk about flexibility in a $200 board. There are some obvious differences between the gummy ring and the top mount, so I will also show both configurations later. For the build, I'll be going with the Tecsee Carrot switches as you can see here. These are made of full PME housing with a palm stem and also a long stem pole, so that it has a very nice thock to them. And they also look pretty fun. To finish the build, I also used some wholly mounted Durock V2 stabs as well. Now for the gummy O-ring. This is actually a very easy type of mount, so you just kind of stretch the O-ring and place it between the upper plate and the PCB. It's a pretty straightforward installation. Once done, this is how it looks like, so you can also see how it kind of floats the entire plate and PCB assembly above the lower case and eliminates hard contact. So now let's move on to assembly. Place the provided silicone pad below like this, lay the plate and PCB assembly into the case, and then place the upper case on top like this. Then you screw everything together and you're pretty much good to go. For the keycaps, I'm using Keebsforall's PBT Doggie Cherry Profile Diced Up Keycaps. Did I tell you that Keebsforall likes dogs? They sure do. Here's the final look of the keyboard. Overall, it has a very clean look to it, and the Sangen layout also provides a nice symmetry that my brain really likes. As mentioned before, this is a F13 TKL, which means that you have the extra key right here, that in my case, I have programmed it to be a Win key. The Freebird TKL is a comfortable keyboard with a gentle 6-degree typing angle. Plus, the gummy ring mount provides the Freebird a nice flex to it, as you can see right here. It's not a super bouncy soft keyboard, but definitely provides a nice comfortable give. Remember the USB cutout? Here's a closer look at how all of this really works. So, the Freebird TKL, we got the clean looks, the comfortable flex. What about the sound? Let's take a listen to the stock O-ring and then the top mount stock configurations. So, in my opinion, both sound great. However, I actually prefer the sound of the top mount, but the overall feel of the gummy O-ring. So, what do? Mod it, of course. How can I get best of both worlds? Like this. So, I ended up going into the board and removing the silicone dampener. It does a good job, but what I learned from my previous Bakeneko build was that the gummy O-ring type mount really benefited from none other than polyfill. So, I used that instead. Then I wanted to increase the overall thock, so I used 2 layers of blue masking tape under the PCB to give it that oomph. With that all put together, now let's check out the sound in the final form. Actually, before we do that, one thing. Since this is a gummy mount design, keep in mind that if you pull out one of the corner switches while installed, the gummy ring will snap in, and you will have to uninstall the entire keyboard, just FYI. It's the same with the Bakeneko as well. That sounds like a resonant and warm wooden xylophone being hit with a wooden mallet. Just very instrumental. Plus, it has all the flex of the gummy O-ring and pretty much everything else in between. So, remember what I said in the beginning? If you're in the market for a TKL keyboard for around $200, heck, any keyboard around that price, and want something that sounds amazing, feels amazing, and also is fully programmable through QMK and VIA, look no further than the Freebird TKL. There was really nothing wrong with the Freebird 60, but it was mostly a Me Too project. However, with the Freebird TKL, Keebsforall is definitely stepping up their game in this custom keyboard market. The Freebird TKL will be a short, unlimited group buy, then move into an in-stock item. I'll leave the info in the description below in case you're interested. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and I'll have more content for you in the future. Thanks.